Hello, McFatter families. It is Thursday, January 6th, and we are here with your January update, the first update of the new year. So happy 2022 to everybody. I am Jeanette Johnson, the director and principal here at McFatter Technical College and Technical High School. And with me, as always, as we kick off 2022, are the assistant principal over the high school, Mr. Daryl Harris.
Hello there.
And our magnet coordinator, Miss Lily DeCastro.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to both of you. Let's hope that 2022 is a great one for everyone and a healthy one. We have lots to talk about, and we're going to start with the health issues. I'm going to go through some information about COVID, and then we're going to give you some updates on wrapping up the term that we're in, looking towards the next term, as well as applications for next year for those. So we've got a lot to cover. So I wanted to start by going through the most recent updates regarding COVID. And I feel like I want to apologize to everyone because I know we've been talking about this for so long, and I know people are tired of it. However, some things have changed, both in state law and district policy, and obviously we're currently experiencing a community-wide uptick in cases. So it's really important that we make sure that everyone has the most recent, most up-to-date information. So if you will please humor me as I go through the updates, and please listen even if you've heard it all before, because there's probably some new stuff in there. So the first thing I wanted to do is make sure that all of our families are aware of when, by district policy, students must stay home and when they don't have to stay home. And those are different than they used to be. Some of them are different. So please, please listen carefully. We've had some confusion even this week. There are 3 situations in which a student must stay home and may not come to school. Those situations are if the student has taken a COVID test and is awaiting results. That's been the biggest point of confusion we've noticed this week. We've had families where they thought it was okay for the child to come to school while the test results were still pending. It is not. If a student is awaiting results for a COVID test, they must remain home until they have the results. The second situation, obviously, is if the student tests positive for COVID-19. And then the third is if the student is having symptoms that are consistent with COVID-19. Any of those 3 things, the student must remain home, and we want you to contact the school, let the school know which of those 3 reasons is why, and we will then be able to walk you through, okay, what do I do next? When a student doesn't have to stay home, and this is something that has changed recently, it used to be that students who were close contacts of a COVID-19 person had to stay home if they were asymptomatic, if they weren't vaccinated. That's no longer true. Both vaccinated and unvaccinated students may come to school if they are a close contact with a COVID positive person, as long as they are asymptomatic. Anyone who has symptoms must stay home. And families, even if your child is asymptomatic, you may choose to keep your child home for a quarantine if they are a close contact to somebody who's COVID positive. But we want you to know that that is your choice. If they're symptomatic, they must stay home. If they're asymptomatic, parents, it's your choice as to whether or not they quarantine. However, if you do choose to keep them home, again, we want you to let us know, and let me go into why that matters next. If a student is home for any COVID-related reason, they're waiting for test results, they're COVID positive, they have COVID-related symptoms, or they are a close contact and you are quarantining them, the student may be eligible to not be considered absent even though they're missing school time. And that requires 2 things to happen. Number 1, you need to let us know the reason. And then what happens in the system, our attendance team codes the absence differently. They code it with a Q rather than the usual A or AU, which means legally and in the eyes of the district, the student isn't absent, as long as they also do the second thing, which is to participate in the class that day by doing any assigned work and by listening into the class via Teams or Zoom, depending on what class they're in. So if the student is out for a COVID related reason, obviously if they're not well and they don't want to participate in class because they're not feeling well, we're not saying you have to do that. Let the student stay at home, let them rest and recover. But if they're home and they're feeling well enough to participate, if you notify the school, allow us to code it with the Q, and then have your child participate, they're not considered absent and they get full credit for the day. It does mean, however, that you, the parent or the student, needs to let each teacher know that you wish to listen in. Because we are back face-to-face, the teachers aren't automatically every day running the open Teams or Zoom links. They only do it when notified by a parent or student that the request is there. And you want to be sure, once the teachers get their day going, they often don't see their email till the end of the day. So whenever possible, you'd want to try to notify them a day ahead of time, if at all possible, so that they can have those links open. We do also want to caution families that this is not remote instruction like it was when we were fully remote, meaning the teacher will not necessarily be sitting in front of the camera of their computer and will not be interacting with the students at home. The teacher is teaching the class in front of them. Think of it like an opportunity to have a microphone placed into the classroom. So it provides an opportunity for the student to listen in on any class discussion or class lecture, but there won't be the back and forth with the teacher like there was when most of our students were fully remote. So those are when a student must stay home, when it's the parent's choice whether or not to keep them home, and what to do for continuity of instruction if they are at home. Couple of other things COVID related. I wanted to remind all of you that the mask requirement has changed, effective with this past Monday. Masks are required on campus of all parents, visitors, and vendors to campus, and they are strongly encouraged for all students and staff, particularly when you are around others. You know, right now the three of us are each in our own office with the door closed, or we'd have our masks on. And obviously students take their masks off when eating. So it's strongly encouraged but not required of staff and students. The last thing I think I wanted to mention, although I'm going to ask Mr. Harris and Mr. Castro to remind me if I've missed anything, is I wanted to speak briefly about COVID testing available for students. We have put word out there previously for the past several months. COVID testing is usually available here on campus for our students at parent request. You have to have filled out the permission form for that to happen. If you didn't have that previously, but you would like it now, it's available on our website, or you can get hard copies of it within the office. You submit that. If the student does come to the isolation clinic and the nurse assesses the situation and thinks it might be wise to test the student, the nurse will still, even with the form, the nurse will call the parent and verify that indeed they have permission to test. Parents, you can also contact us and request that a child who's here for the day be tested. So that is available. However, we have to apologize because it hasn't been available this week. And the reason for that, unfortunately, is beyond our control. We have not had a nurse in the isolation clinic this week. The nurses are not school district employees. The district employs an outside agency, and the agency has been woefully understaffed with nurses this week. So many schools in the district are currently without a nurse for their isolation room. And unfortunately, we happen to be one of them. And only the nurse affiliated with these agencies is allowed to administer the COVID test. And that's why we've been unable to provide any testing this week. We do have a separate clinic, not our isolation room, where we have a health aide in there to provide more basic services like Band-Aids and that sort of thing. But that even that aide, because they are not licensed or a registered nurse, they're not eligible to administer the test. We are hoping that we will get our nurse assigned back to us by next week. But again, the agency has a lot of staffing shortages as well, and that's why we're currently not able to offer the test, and we apologize for that. Please keep asking if you're interested, and whenever we have a nurse here and it's available, we would be happy to do it. But that is the dilemma we're faced with this week. Mr. Harris, Mr. Castro, did I miss anything COVID related that we had said we wanted to be sure our families knew?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a student and I tested positive for COVID, and I've quarantined for the 10 or 11 days, or that's what my standard quarantine time is. If I get a negative test in 7 days or so, can I come back to school?
Thank you for asking that question. And this is a good example of why it's so important families to communicate with us, because the rules have changed and continue to change on who has to quarantine or isolate, what the length of the quarantine and isolation is. And it's mostly either Mr. Harris or me, we can walk you through the most up-to-date things. So with that said, for COVID positive students, the rule is that the student must stay home for 10 days from the date of the positive test, so they become eligible to return on the 11th day. They can only return on the 11th day if they also have no fever and all of their other symptoms have improved. They can return sooner if they, after the date of the positive test, if they subsequently get a negative test and also have no fever and their symptoms have improved. However, administration has to clear you for that early return. So what needs to happen is if a student tests positive for COVID and maybe they're asymptomatic or very mild symptoms, and 4 or 5 days later they get retested and it's negative and you want to get back into school, don't have the student just show up to school. A parent should call or email either Mr. Harris or me. We will have to verify. You'll need to provide us a copy of the negative result, and then we can clear the student for a quicker return to campus. So thank you for asking that.
No problem.
The only thing that I was going to add was all of this information is based on the information that we have today, and it can change again. So call us with any questions.
Yeah, and that's what we can't emphasize enough. It's changed multiple times as conditions in the community have changed, as state laws have changed, as the guidance from the CDC changes. And so that's why we just keep saying over and over again, just call us. Just call us. Don't make assumptions. Don't think you know what the rules are. We know people are trying to do the right thing and we truly appreciate it, but we know we make it hard for you to do the right thing sometimes because the rules keep changing. So please just stay in touch with us and we'll be happy to walk you through it. So, okay, and obviously, as always, if anything we've said creates any questions, just call or email any of the three of us. We'll be happy to answer those questions. Okay, so let's move on to some things other than COVID. Let's talk about the fact that we are about to finish the current term. In many ways, it probably feels like we finished before winter break because students took exams, but technically the last day of the term isn't until Monday. So I wanted Ms. DeCastro to talk a little bit about what's happening this week, since the students have mostly finished their course content and have also already taken their final exams. So if you'll talk a little bit about what's going on this week.
Okay, thank you. So this week there has been a little more downtime than there normally is. However, every day we've had 2 different topics on our social, emotional, health, and well-being content that is required by the state. So each day we cover two topics for all grades. It depends when they would occur. We are not interrupting the technical programs for juniors or seniors because their curriculum is continuing. But Monday is the last day for the first quarter. We finish that content on Friday. But even beyond Friday, if any students have any social emotional concerns, questions, I just want to remind everybody that not only does every grade level have a counselor, we also have a full-time social worker and a family counselor on campus that can help students. I can help.
Psychologist available.
School psychologist, I forgot. The school psychologist is not here every day, but also if you need help, if a student needs help, we are always here. There's somebody here. And the teachers, the teachers are here to be an ear to listen to students. We've been reinforcing that all week, we are here for you. And if I've asked a question, and even as a counselor, and I don't feel the most comfortable, I can find somebody who can be the one. So we just wanted to remind parents of that.
And so that's how we're wrapping up the current term. Mr. Harris, I know people are very interested and curious about the next term. So could you walk us through some of the key dates coming up, as well as how students will be able to find out what their schedules are for the new term?
Yes, so I hope and believe all of our students have done well finishing up the first semester, which officially ends. The new semester will start on the 12th of January. So there are a couple of things that happened days before, so I'll share those with you. So we have early release on January the 10th, and so early release for us is at 2:15 p.m. That's what time school will end on that date. There's no school on the 11th of January. That's a teacher planning day. And then on the 17th of January, we will also have no school that day in celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So there's a couple of days that's coming up there. But I want to make sure the new semester is going to start. It will officially start on the 12th of January. Schedules, Ms. Johnson mentioned about schedules. Those will be available in virtual council for our students to see. Some of them may already see them now. And there may be some small changes, a few changes with some schedules that may have to be adjusted, but for the most part, they're pretty accurate. But if you have any concerns, please feel free to reach out to your counselor or Mr. Castro about anything regarding your schedule. So we're winding down, but we're looking forward, and I just want to say on behalf of the three of us as well and the entire staff, just thank you for how you've gotten through so far through the first semester. It's been a lot of challenges, but the students have done an amazing job. They've followed the rules, they've been supportive, they've done their classwork. So it's been challenging, but I'm really proud, and we're really proud of all of our students, how they've gotten through the first semester. So just keeps going strong.
It's a tough time, and we know that, and to see how much our students do not only for their own well-being and success, but to support their classmates is really, really wonderful to see. So we know they're excited about getting to start their new set of academics on next Wednesday, so we're excited for them for that. We also wanted to mention briefly, as we're moving into the second semester, that means the end of this school year will be upon us before we know it. And we know that while that's exciting for everyone, it's particularly exciting for our seniors. So as we move into this final semester for them, of course, we'll be continuing to update them on things like prom and other senior activities. We also wanted to mention, we know we're getting a lot of questions about graduation and about cap and gown ordering. So I wanted to briefly mention graduation dates, times, and locations have not yet been released. Those are created by the district because they coordinate them for all high schools, because the district schedules them, books the locations, and makes sure the proper personnel and school district and board members are available. So we haven't yet received the actual date. As soon as we get it and it's cleared, we will release that to all of you. Cap and gown ordering also got put on hold. Normally by now it would be well underway, and I believe some seniors may have already ordered it before it got temporarily held up, and that's because there was the bid for the vendor expired. And so the school board had to go through a new bid process to identify any and all approved vendors for cap and gown purchases. So any cap and gown purchases had to be put on hold until that bid process is complete. I do know that the district expects and hopes that that process will be complete by late January or early February at the latest. I know they've got a meeting about it going just next week, I believe. But they can't do any ordering until there's an approved vendor or approved multiple vendors on hand. So that's why you haven't gotten anything recently from us about cap and gown ordering. Again, as soon as that process is completed, we'll let everybody know so that those who haven't already ordered their cap and gown can do so. And then we also want to make sure that we talk about next year. And for that, we want to talk about the magnet application process, which is well underway and actually quite near its conclusion. So Ms. DeCastro, if you could talk about that.
Thank you. So the magnet window closes for the first round of applications on February 1st. And it's important because we won't talk again on this video until after that. So February 1st is the deadline to apply and be considered in the first round. Anyone who applies when they reopen it later will only be considered after our wait pool is exhausted. And we are projected to have a wait pool. The application is submitted at browardschools.com/school choice. And the first step is to create a family account and then go student by student to see who would apply. It is important to include all of the kids in the family account because in the future, that's where you get the sibling role and where priority takes place. The children are in one family and it connects that way. So we just didn't want anybody to miss the opportunity. If you did miss our open house and you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can see an excerpt from that event there. I didn't make the TikTok yet from the event, but that will pop up too since we've added TikToks. And email me. I can try to get you the link if you don't have it, or answer questions. So I'm excited because we're going to middle schools again and speaking with people. And actually, as soon as this is over, I'm running to another one.
And
So
you were at one this morning as well, weren't you?
Yes, I was at a charter school this morning. So we're doing all we can to make sure that everybody knows about McFatter, because we believe we're a great school. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we definitely wanted to be sure that families were aware of that application deadline, and that we do expect, as usual, that we will be in a wait pool status. So it's very important that interested individuals apply by the deadline. And you mentioned YouTube. I was waiting for you to say rate, review, and subscribe. You mentioned YouTube and TikTok. I thought we should remind people, there's so much out there, so much going on. There's no reason for you to not be aware of what's going on if you want to reach out to us or follow us in whatever format works for you. So we just want to be sure you all know. Obviously, we're available via emails, phone calls, in-person visits, but we have a very significant presence on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Snapchat.
Are we on Snapchat? I couldn't remember if we were on Snapchat. I don't use it personally, so I don't stay aware of that.
And the reason we use YouTube for our videos is space. We can't put them all on our website. We started with that, and we only get limited space. So it's not that we're trying to make everyone subscribe, but it is just an effective way.
We're trying to make information available to families in as many different formats as possible, so families can find the ones that they prefer the most. We are always just a phone call away. We are always just an in-person visit away. Well, not always. We're not here on the weekends and when school's closed. But we're here by phone, we're here by email, and we're here through the website as these videos and all the different social media platforms. So families, please make sure that you just use whatever methods are best for you to stay in touch with us and to keep informed of everything going on with the school. I think that's everything going on with the school that we wanted to talk about this month, correct?
It's a lot more than we realized.
It was a lot more than we realized, mostly because I had to go through all that COVID stuff, which I can't wait for the day where that's no longer a topic of the conversation. Our next video will be the first Thursday in February, which is Thursday, February 3rd. So we will be back in this format on Thursday the 3rd. Otherwise, we hope everyone enjoys this weekend. Enjoy the long holiday weekend when we are closed in observation of Martin Luther King Day. Students finish strong and then start your new classes strong on the 12th as well. We thank everyone for always being such an important part of the work we try to do with our students here and for helping our students thrive. So with that, we will sign off. Mr. Harris, Mr. Castro, have a good afternoon. Mr. Castro, enjoy your middle school visit.
Thank you.
And say farewell to everyone else. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.